Come out of high school, your dad worked for the union, graduate with a degree in smoking dope, you're making $200,000 a year working with your dad on the docks.
Isn't America great?
Isn't America great? Welcome back to the Professor Penn podcast. David Penn, your host. Glad to be with you on this Tuesday night, the 22nd of April, 7:30 p.m. Central Standard Time, coming to you from the studios of Free People Radio here in Minneapolis, Minnesota, the belly of the beast, where I suffer from communism in the upper Midwest. Uh, there's so much going on. I'm going to have to dispense with a long preamble, but I'm going to say up front, more and more, it's very evident to me that if we don't organize, we're screwed. So please repost the links. Thank you for those who are doing it, like Rob, for example, and Naomi. There are people that are being very consistent about reposting the links, and that helps a lot. The podcast is growing quickly. We are politically motivated. I would like to make money doing this. That'd be great. I like doing the work. That's great because I get the most out of it because I do the research. But it really is going to be imperative to make this work that we start to focus on citizen political action. And why? Well, we're living in World War III. That'd be one reason. And if past performance of our elected officials are any prediction of the future outcomes, they're going to kill all of us. I've come to the conclusion most of these people are either self-serving or stupid or both. Yes, and if you're listening to me and you're elected, hey, I'm really sorry. Prove me different. Prove something different to me. Quit messing around with trivial pursuits. I watch things happen on X, newsworthy events, and then I watch everybody jump in and say the same trivial thing. We just had a podcast called Blasphemy, and I watched everybody. Easter's a really important holiday, and everybody wants to tell everybody that they celebrate Easter. You know, how about celebrate Easter and we don't have to tell each other that? Like if you're in church and you look at the person next to you, peace be with you, okay, that's cool. But these the public displays of faith, this is performative politics. And I don't like it. It's blasphemous. If we really believe in Christ, it wouldn't be like this. So what are we covering up? It's a Band-Aid. Stop using God to cover up your ambitions. That is an unforgivable sin. Got to quit that. We got to demand better of ourselves and of our elected officials. Now, I want to share that, particularly in my age group, the boomers, these people are so off base about what they think and what they're willing to do to maintain what they have. Here's the facts. For decades, we as Americans have been consuming more than we produce. Let me say it again. It makes things really simple. We consume more than we produce. Why do I know that? We have a trade deficit. We have a federal debt of $37 trillion. Those are the two metrics to gauge that we are consuming more than we produce. What does that make us? Takers, not givers. Takers. Our society is filled with people who take but do not give. In fact, the Democrat with their Republican collaborators have made this into an art form where younger people think they deserve to take. Well, let me tell you how this works. I had a mentor of mine, he's been dead for many years, and he used to say to me, Mr. Penn, you can get as far from the forest as you think you can. But when you get out there far enough from the forest, you're going to get snapped back into reality. And that's where we are right now. We are in the precipice of being snapped back into reality. Human beings cannot take more than they give in aggregate in a country without the country collapsing. Are we watching the financial indicators? Gold going up and everything else losing value. That is because the emperor has no clothes. Now, what they're going to do is blame Donald Trump. You know, Donald Trump is the great unmasker. He's unmasked decades of taking more than we give. How do we change this? Well, in my own personal life, that's where I start. I give more than I take. I give more than I take. At least let's try to get to a balanced place. And this is critical. And I'm going to share with you why that is. The world has had enough of this. Please play clip number 1, Tanner. And good morning to you.
Good morning.
China will fight to the end, as the government has declared, and China has now imposed the retaliatory tariff up to 125% against all U.S. exports to China. Now, if things are not handled well, this means complete stop of China-U.S. trade, both ways. No goods exported from the United States to China, and complete stop of everything made in China to the United States. This is decoupling. If the United States wants to really welcome this, China will reciprocate, and causing the breakup of China-U.S. relations. Whether this will evolve from peace to war, well, let's all be prepared. In essence, what China now declares is that it is prepared to fight to the end. Trade war, tariff war, technology war, or real war. So the ball is in Trump's court. You decide, and I will reciprocate. I will never succumb to the U.S. pressure. And this is the moment of truth. China wants to defend free trade. The United States wants to destroy free trade.
Right.
The rest of the world is watching, and there will be a choice by the end of the day. For China, you cannot hold a gun to China's head and issue ultimatum and demand all the impossibilities, for example, and ask China to swallow that. China is the country that values dignity and decency and honor more than economic gains or economic losses. So if you want to hold a gun at China's head, China will hold a gun at your head. If you want to strike China in the cheek, China will strike you back. That's the decision and the determination of the Chinese nation. This is not belligerency. This is the minimum decency you need to apply to international relations. How can you demand other countries? I will slap you in the face. Don't slap me back. Otherwise, I will punish you more. That's the law of the jungle. The trade war launched by Trump is wrong. It's the wrong war. It's the war against mankind. MAGA, or Make America Great Again, is fine. But you cannot achieve that at the expense of other countries. You cannot achieve your greatness by belittling, by delegating or relegating other countries to the lowest echelon of the hierarchy. Every country has its ambition. Every country wants to be in the first front, first row, for example, and no country should be allowed to trample rules of free trade, to trample international order, and to dictate to others, to issue ultimatum, to hold a gun at your head, to demand submission to my will. This is the law of the jungle, and China will never have a part of that, and China will fight to death to oppose that. China is making sure that the American gets the message. If you want to impose war on China, you get war. If you want to destroy China, you get destroyed. If you want to bomb China out with nuclear weapons, you will be wiped out with nuclear weapons. That's the mutually assured destruction theory, mad theory, that everyone in Pentagon, everyone in Washington, D.C. should fully know about. China is not going to be pushed around, and China will fight to the end, one way or another, peacefully or otherwise. So the choice is in Washington. China wants to be a partner of the United States rather than being a slave of the United States.
That's Victor Gao. He's a Chinese lawyer, a businessman. Mostly he's an academic based in Beijing. He is an official spokesperson of the Chinese government delivering that message, that throwing down of the gauntlet, so to speak. This man, interestingly, was educated here in the United States. He is a lawyer who graduated from Yale Law School. He has an MA in International Relations from the Yale Graduate School. This is a man who is a product of our elite universities. And the message that he's delivering is China wants to dig in and fight. Now, President Trump recently said that he thought he'd have a deal in 3 to 4 weeks. Does it seem like we're going to have a deal in 3 to 4 weeks based on what that guy had to say?
I don't know. I would love to see the inside of the meeting rooms, but I just think it's wild how they're so adamant. It brings me back to I've heard you say a couple of times the Chinese are very serious about business, and it shows how true that is. They're talking about war, physical war, over Donald Trump saying, "Hey, the price isn't right. I'm not going to negotiate this."
This is an interesting concept or an interesting idea to look at. Uh, our our culture, Western culture, presumes that people screw up. And we have all these structures in place to fix and repair screw ups. You can hire a lawyer.
Mhm.
You can go for therapy. You can go, if you're screwed up, make a mistake, you can go for therapy,
Yeah.
right? We have this kind of self restorative, we have a healing model. It comes from Christianity,
Mhm.
the idea of improvement,
Yeah, being redeemed.
being thank you.
You're welcome.
Perfecto. The Chinese do not have this model. Their model is called face. You can't lose face. Once you've lost face, there is no redemption. There is no healing. There's only the law of the jungle, which he seems to want to talk about. Actually, he sounded rather Jewish to me the way he was talking. If you slap me in the face, I'll slap you back in the face. If you hold a gun to my head, I'll hold a gun to your head. It's a 6,000-year culture that's based on uh, appearances. And that's got a lot to do with this trade war. Appearances. And it is now with the Chinese a trade war. Now, really, and I've said this in many shorts and on the podcast, this is really about money. But, when you start messing with people's money, that same guy that talked about getting yanked back, if you get too far from the forest, he said there's two things that'll get you killed: messing with a man's wife or messing with a man's money. And we're really for sure messing with the money here. President Trump doesn't like the split. He's renegotiating the split. And of course, the Chinese are saying, hey, this is your system, and you've had us slaved out for years. And wasn't that kind of a strange comment?
Yeah, I mean, I kind of think he's telling the truth, but I don't. It's a lot of the corporations.
It's beyond corporations. Guess what the United States and China has in common? We have a deep commonality. We were both colonies of the British Empire.
Wait, China was too?
Yes, they were.
We're gonna have to go on a whole episode of that because I did not know that.
Oh, you didn't know that?
No, that's news to me.
Oh my goodness. Do you know the story of Hong Kong? You know what Hong Kong is?
Yeah, I've heard. I know the city, but I
It
don't.
was a British colony for years. There was cantons in eastern China on the coast around Shanghai that were administered by foreign colonial occupying powers who extracted the wealth out of China in the classic slavery and drugs and piracy business model. And guess who was also there? We the people. We the people had a canton, a colonial area in China where we did business, where we set up shop with the Germans and the British. Everybody was in there robbing and stealing.
I really didn't pay attention in history class. This is blowing my mind. What?
Didn't we do a podcast on a movie, The Sandpiper? Maybe it didn't get up because there was copyright issues. But if you go back and look at the famous Steve McQueen movie, The Sandpiper, this history was in the mind, in the memory of Americans in the 60s. Now apparently it's down the memory hole.
Yeah, yeah. For me, for sure.
There was two wars fought by the British, Opium War One and Opium War Two, where the British beat the Chinese, and then for the impudence of the Chinese to fight back, they demanded big chunks of territory like Macau and Hong Kong, and it was a colonial war. And then there was the Boxer Rebellion in 1898. I mean, there was a long, and see, you forgot about it, but guess what? The Chinese remember it like it was yesterday.
Yeah.
The British, see, this is where we talk about this British business model, which of course the United States is now operating, slavery, that'd be colonialism, drugs, both legal and illegal, and then of course piracy, which is just taking people's things away from them. The British flooded China with opium. I mean,
Okay, I remember that.
they addicted the entire, as many people as they could, not the entire, that's a cognitive distortion, but there was a tremendous problem with opium, which there was American fortunes made in that business. Let me give you a name, the Rockefeller family.
Mm.
There was a lot of people that profited phenomenally from that business. So when they flood our country with fentanyl, they consider it, guess what? Payback. You put a gun to our head, we'll put a gun to your head. So this is a deep, we're in a deep problem with a implacable uh, adversary, and we're moving along like everything's just good in the hood. And this guy is saying, if you hit us with nuclear bombs, we're going to hit you back. And you're going to see this, and it's just going to be like this normalcy bias is going to kick in, and people are not going to recognize how on edge we are. And then we have these political leaders that are vacuous. They are just shills for forces that put them in the seats. They're not representing we the people. They're representing their corporate masters, as you said earlier, right? The corporations.
Yeah.
Okay, now let me just say, knowing a lot of Chinese people, the average everyday Chinese person like you and me, they have zero desire to go to war. It's the first time it's been good in China like forever. They have a good life there. They don't want to see it screwed up. But then they have their own political class like we do. And remember, when we the people don't self-govern, the worst scum of the society, if you're hearing me and you're not scum, prove it to me. The worst scum of the society flock in to politics, like we got them right here in Minnesota, in droves of people that are just disgustingly not in tune with the spiritual life that they claim they believe in when they send me, Happy Easter messages. Or I look on X and every one of them, Happy Easter, Happy Easter, Happy. If we were so godly, how did it get like this? Oh, let's blame it on the Democrat. Come on, stop. Quit the blaming. It's not about blaming, it's about changing and refreshing our culture and working on it every day so that we're givers and not takers. And the Chinese feel that they have been abused in an extractive kind of neocolonialism, and they've just said, we're not taking this. We want to be your partner, not your slave. Okay, what does that mean? Well, what it means is they've reversed course on this thing, reversed the polarity, at least 20 years ago. 20 years ago, they have a plan to subjugate we the people the way our leadership wanted to subjugate the Chinese people. And that subjugation goes back hundreds of years. Hundreds of years. I'm not shilling for the Chinese. And I really object to their system. And I object to the idea of face without reconciliation and redemption. I think it's awful, but it's the way they live their lives. It's awful for me. Uh, they're entitled to be any way they want to. My name is Paul, and it's between you all. We have military bases all around China, the same way we have military bases all around Iran, yet we say the Chinese are a security threat. No, we're threatening them. We need to understand what's going on here. And what this Victor Gao was saying is they will fight to the death to uh, avoid neocolonialism and the hegemony of the United States of America. We need to think this through, particularly the boomers who believe that we have the strongest military in the world and we're doing it. Like President Nixon said, if your president does it, then it's legal. That's what we think here in my age cohort. And I talk to these people all the time, and I'm getting really tired of it. People that I've been bearing up and acting respectful towards, because that's what we do as Americans. We try to respect each other. You people are just not respectable. And it's time for the gloves to come off. This Mary Franzen, who's an elected representative, posted up last night that Royce White is nuts. Mary, I'm going to tell you, you're stupid. He's not nuts. I know him. He's very smart. And anybody that knows Royce knows he's smart. And the stridency that you object to with this Minnesota nice politics is born of a generation like Tanner's generation. They don't have anything. The boomers took all and left nothing behind for the people coming after them. But hey, guess what? If we lose the currency, you're going to have nothing too. But you don't know that because you don't read. You just post. All right. China, along this line of that they're ready to get down, they're posting 1950s clips of Chairman Mao talking about confronting the United States. Their video that's getting a full rotation there in the Chinese media shows Chairman Mao proclaiming a determination to fight until China, quote unquote, completely triumphs against the U.S. under President Eisenhower. This is a little bit crazy. You know, Chairman Mao directly is responsible for the deaths of 50 million Chinese. So when they're pulling out this guy as an icon, oh, they're getting ready to get down now. They're whitewashing a mass murderer because, you know, this is part of the Chinese ethos. And I want to just delve into this because we got to know what we're dealing with here. Why do the Chinese operate with face? And if you violate someone's face, there's no healing. And why do Americans, when we screw up, have all these mechanisms to repair things? What's the difference? The difference is Christianity, as we were saying.
Mm-hmm.
When you heal a wound, there's peace. The Chinese don't want to heal a wound. They want the wound to be the motivation for revenge. Try to contemplate what we're dealing with here now. It's important that we do deal with it because we're in a very, shall we say, precarious moment that's fraught with a lot of danger. In 3 areas, the Ukraine, the Middle East, and South China Sea. The Chinese have halted exports of critical resources, rare earths, which the globalists set up as a Chinese concession decades ago. It's not that we don't have rare earths here in the United States of America. You just have to tear the top off of a mountain to get to it. So our people said, we're going to maintain this idea that we're all about the environment and environmentalism because they had a long-term plan to deindustrialize the United States. And they gave the Chinese all the dirty industry because the Chinese were poor and didn't care about the effect of those dirty industries upon the people that were citizens of the country of China. Now, China's valorizing now, so there is more environmental concern in China. But I've been in China in cities, I mean, literally, smoking cigarettes was better for your health than just breathing the air. You're laughing at me.
No, I believe it because I've seen they still have smoking rooms like in buildings. Right? Is that true? I've seen videos where they just have smoking rooms.
When I first started going to China, the country was a smoking room. But now they're improving, and because they're up the ladder and there is some effort to provide for the well-being of the people. You know, the Chinese have done a remarkable job of providing for their people. This was a country that was devastated in World War II. I think there was 25 million Chinese killed by the Japanese, 25 million. We lost about 500,000 people here. So they lost 25 million people, and the Japanese were brutal colonialists. They weren't kind like the British. Ha, ha, ha. The British weren't kind. But when you get down to the Japanese and the French, you're talking about governments that came into other areas and just killed everybody. I mean, that's what the way they subdued their colonial populations. And then they had the Maoist revolution in 49. The country was so poor, so poor. There was hungers, there were famines. Some were self-inflicted, yes. But the point is the people were battered from pillar to post. And over the course of the last 30 years, that country has developed. I've seen it with my own eyes. I do have some sympathy for the Chinese, for the individual citizens, because they really want to be good people. They're family people. They're traditional people. They reject, for example, drugs. They reject, for example, pornography. They like to gamble, though.
Mm.
They do have a vice. They like to gamble. Uh, Traditional religious culture has been completely suppressed by the Chinese government, which is terrible, which has created a materialist population that's focused on making money. Now, I'm speaking in broad generalities. I've known some great Chinese artists. I mean, fantastic musicians, authors, painters. I mean, I know these people personally, and their depth, their insight is every bit as anybody else. But the population in mass has been deployed in a money-making scheme, and it has lifted tens of millions of people, hundreds of millions of people out of poverty. And it was done in concert with our leadership. That's when Donald Trump says, I don't blame the Chinese, I blame our leaders. And there was maybe some good intent to make one peaceful world, but mostly it was, oh, there's a billion people over there. Let's go exploit them for 30 cents an hour.
Mhm.
Let's fire all these pesky union workers in Ohio that we have to negotiate with in all these buildings and machines. These companies go bankrupt. What a waste of time. Let's just have the slaves build the stuff, and then we'll just make the money on the financialization part, marketing and finance. And that decision was made by the central bank. That would be the Federal Reserve of the United States. And every bank that is in that system, which is all of them, changed from a business strategy where we, the people, invested in companies and we grew companies and they were producing here in our country. And that was just all overthrown. And President Trump's trying to change that, and you can see the resistance to it. Let's play number 2.
China's leader Xi Jinping is in Vietnam. His first stop on a tour of Southeast Asia to signal support for global trade. Xi was received by Vietnam's Communist Party leader To Lam in the capital Hanoi. The visit comes in the wake of US President Donald Trump's trade tariff announcement. Trump hit Vietnam with a tariff rate of 46%, then paused it for 90 days. Trump's 145% tariff on Chinese goods remains in effect, though, with exemptions for consumer electronics. Now, Vietnam has become a key player in the supply chain that delivers products to the US. Many companies shifted production there after Trump imposed tariffs on Chinese firms during his first term as president. And for more, we can speak to Alicia Garcia Herrero. She is the chief economist for the Asia-Pacific region at the investment bank Natixis. She joins us from Hong Kong. It's good to have you on the program. Welcome to DW. What is Xi's message to the Vietnamese?
Hold on there. That's the message. Vietnam has done very well during the last few years, thanks to greenfield investment from China. The border, the Vietnam-China border is full of factories producing for the US, mostly for the US. And this is exactly what Trump intends to stop if the Vietnamese want to strike a deal to avoid import tariffs from the US. And I think she's exactly trying to say, look, if you want to be in my supply chain, you'd better keep my factories and keep importing from China.
Yeah, and as you say, Alicia, Vietnam has become an export powerhouse to the US, but China is its giant neighbor. How would you describe the position that Vietnam is in right now?
Well, I'm sure Vietnam would like to move up the ladder and continue to import from China, but substituting over time its imports to produce more value added in Vietnam. This is what the Trump administration is asking them to do, basically not to do transshipping or simple assembly, but to have more value added. The problem is that China needs that value added now, because China is cut off the US market for obvious humongously high tariffs. So China is not ready to let Vietnam basically produce to become, if you want, strategically autonomous, as we would say in Europe. And Vietnam can't really do it on its own because it would lose a lot of investment from China and a lot of employment. So in a way, Vietnam is stuck. It really can't offer to the US what Mexico has offered. They have to keep the US market and its free trade agreement, USMCA with the US. Vietnam is too tied to China to do that.
Right.
And Xi Jinping was in and out. That's why he's there.
Right. And he's also going to be visiting Malaysia and then Cambodia in this tour. Why do you think these states were chosen?
Well, Vietnam and Cambodia and Malaysia are all very dependent on China, but the interest is different. Vietnam has ballooned thanks to China. In fact, Xi Jinping visited only 18 months ago. Cambodia 9 years ago, and Malaysia something like 12 years ago. So, the level of relevance is not the same for Xi Jinping because Vietnam has been at the forefront of this transshipping to the US. But I think the problem is that both have been hardly hit by tariffs. And I think Xi Jinping understands that Vietnam only cannot be the deal. He needs other platforms. Maybe Vietnam will be stuck with the tariffs from the US, but Malaysia may make it. And that's why Xi Jinping needs to visit these countries to find other supply chain to then re-export to the US.
Alicia, Donald Trump's tariffs have upended global trade. I just want to get your sense of where you see global trade headed after this chapter.
Yeah, so we're going to see obviously a retrenchment of global trade, but also regionalization of global trade. And again, Xi Jinping's visit right after these tariffs were lifted temporarily says it all about China's intent and speed of reaction to at least secure its own supply chain in this bifurcated world. The US will push Mexico, Xi Jinping is pushing Vietnam. So it's very clear. We're moving towards two ecosystems in global trade.
All right, that is Alicia Garcia Herrero, Chief Economist for the Asia-Pacific region at Natixis. Thank you, Alicia. We appreciate that.
Thank you, Tanner. During that visit of President Xi Jinping to Hanoi, 45 cooperation agreements were signed. Key areas include railway and infrastructure, supply chains and trade, technology and green economy, defense and security. Two countries agreed to hold joint maritime patrols in the Gulf of Tonkin. And other areas was culture exchanges, media, sports, et cetera, and so on. So 45 agreements. There's a lot, for example, in the tire business, and I'm just going to say, please, Tireget.com, Tireget.com. If you need tires, and you will, please support Free People Radio. Go to Tireget, buy your tires there. We'll make sure you get the tires that you need. And the price of tires is going to be going up very soon, unless President Trump double clutches again. And why would he double clutch? He'll double clutch because the pushback against American nationalism, American self-sufficiency, American independence is tremendous. And it's coming from the boomers, right? Because the boomers are sitting here like this. Oh, the pixels on my phone tell me I have less money. Oh, I'm not so sure I like Donald Trump anymore. This is why I say these people don't deserve a kind response. This is not an anti-Chinese operation. This is a pro-American operation. And we've been taking more than we're giving for decades, the boomers being the biggest pigs in the history of the world. Yes, I'm so sorry to tell the truth to you. That's why you don't vote for me. That's why Mary Franson says Royce is nuts, because they don't like the truth. But see, there's something about truth you can't outrun. In other words, you can run, but you can't hide. The forest is in the process of snapping we the people back to reality. People are dumping our paper. You know, the deal that's been going on here since Nixon, we financialized our economy the same way the British did theirs previously. We've been making money on finance, not making money on making things. And the Chinese have taken over that role, and they do a darn good job of it. The quality of Chinese goods today is extraordinarily high. Now, Vietnam, going back to Vietnam just for a second, Vietnam fought a war with China in 1975. We covered it. We talked about it. They don't love the Chinese. They fear the Chinese. They share a border. They share a border. The Vietnamese are trapped. They're trapped between two giants, the United States. Remember the Vietnam War? We fought a war in Vietnam, okay? And the Chinese, the Vietnamese fought a war with China. They're a little bit like the Afghans. They're fiercely independent, but they're just a little country. And I think their entire GDP is something like $330 billion. They're tiny. A third of it is export to the United States. The country is so poor. It's poor, poor, poor. They're trying to get a break. Now, the Chinese have taken and invested a lot to beat taxes imposed on Chinese production. They just moved it across the border, and they've been shipping it out of Vietnam. And I was in Vietnam in 2016. When I went to Vietnam in 2016, they hadn't seen any Americans. The guy that I met there had never seen an American. I was his first. Now the place is crawling with American buyers and with factories mostly financed by China to export to the United States. President Trump is saying he's going to have agreements with these various countries. I do not know. You do not know. Nobody knows where we're heading with this stuff because the pushback financially against what President Trump is trying to do, you vote with your money every day. And the money is voting, hey, United States, if you're pulling out of this globalization process where we're heading towards one world government, hey, we're going to knock you people down. The markets are going down. Bonds are losing their value. The dollar's losing its value. It's an unprecedented repudiation of the position of the United States of America. What are we going to do? We going to fold? Are we going to fold?
I want to run this by you real quick, just an analogy, just so I actually understand this whole little like argument that's happening with the US and China. So we'll just like bring it back home for an example. Like let's say that I have been watching Netflix for a while and I've been subscribed to them for a while and they raise their prices and I decide this is no longer a good deal. And so I email Netflix, I'm canceling my subscription, and they were to email me back, okay, you can do that, but you're kind of attacking us that you don't want to pay us anymore. We're gonna send a sales rep over to you. He might not be peaceful. He might fight you. Is that similar to what's going on here? Like, because
There,
I feel like it's America going, hey, this deal is no longer good for us. We want to renegotiate, and then the other side's talking about war.
it's all how you want to look at it, but there's a lot of fronting in here. The Chinese are acting tough, but losing $500 billion from your export economy, and then President Trump has his thumb on them. You talk about those three countries, Vietnam, Cambodia, and Malaysia, which President Xi is visiting. There's tremendous Chinese investment in those countries to ship stuff to the United States, and there's Thailand and Indonesia. So if you go back and look at the reciprocal tariffs that President Trump rolled out, and we do not know how that's going to come out. We have no idea. Right now, it's 10%. President Trump has said there's about a $1.1 trillion trade deficit with China. And if you add up all those Chinese factories in all those countries, whoa, it is. So from the Chinese side of the football, it is definitely a threat to their economy and their way of life. Because if President Trump follows through, if he had the backing of the Republican Party, which he does not here in Minnesota for sure, it's not me making it up. These people have told me themselves I got people texting me every day telling me what a knucklehead Trump is because they don't care about these existential issues for American sovereignty. They care about the cash. And the Chinese care about the cash. When you make everybody a materialist, all anybody cares about is the cash. Freedom doesn't matter anymore. Sidebar. But when you add up all these countries and where all these reciprocal tariffs are, it's really going to hamstring the Chinese economy. So it is from, I think, our perspective, for those of us that are rational in the United States, it's about a bad deal for the American people that we want to change. It is not militarily aggressive. And it's exactly like you said. Hey, Netflix, the deal's no good. You cancel my subscription. And then Netflix sends a leg breaker over to see you and says, if you cancel your subscription, we're going to kill you. It is. I think that's a very very similar kind of a thing. But it is, for the Chinese, an existential threat if President Trump was able to follow through and impose all these tariffs as he's rolled them out. It would really, really damage the Chinese economy.
So I guess this is my next question: is do you think that the Chinese are dependent on the U.S.?
They're dependent on trade. And what President Trump is doing, and one of the reasons why the Chinese are reacting so stridently, because President Trump has very overtly, the words coming out of his mouth, has said, and Scott Bessent, the Treasury Secretary, has led an effort to encourage, in other words, force countries to make a choice. Are you going to be in the United States orbit or in the Chinese orbit? And so, the Chinese look at this as an attack on their sovereignty, on their economy. That's why that trade analyst was saying that the world is separated into two spheres of economic activity, decoupling. But, when you take out a bunch of customers, you can go bust.
That's kind of what I mean. Like, are they dependent on our customer base?
They're dependent on foreign trade. They are not necessarily dependent on the United States. It's about $500 billion.
Okay.
It is about 2.5% of their GDP. They wouldn't like it.
Yeah, but they wouldn't.
But they
just
could
collapse.
get through it. But it's all the other countries where they're earning money and all the other export markets, like Mexico. Part of the negotiation with Mexico is the United States government is trying to encourage, in other words, forcing Mexico to raise tariff barriers against Chinese products going into Mexico. And the Europeans the same.
So it's not necessarily America's customer base. Trump is kind of making it hard for multiple countries.
There you have it.
Okay.
That's why we started out with that Victor Gao clip where he says, hey, you hold a gun to our head, we're going to hold a gun to your head too. Generally speaking, this kind of conflict precedes world war. And we're going to talk, Ray Dalio is going to talk about that to us in just a minute. But the thing is really about optics right now. And it does look like the United States is losing because our stock market is losing value. Our bonds are losing value. Our sovereign bonds are losing value. Our dollar is losing value. So it looks like we're losing. And the Chinese are not looking like that. And you go, wow, the Chinese are more resilient than the United States. But actually, this is an issue of face. The Chinese are manipulating their financial instruments to maintain value, to look better, look better than the United States at this moment in this trade war. We're in a moment of propaganda and appearances. And what people are saying is not necessarily the truth. It's what they want us to believe. This has never happened before. Predicting the outcome of this is not easy. If you're on X or you're reading anything that's well-informed, you got a group of people that say the United States is going to lose, and you got a group of people that are saying China's going to lose. That's what wars are really about, is when two semi-evenly matched powers face off to see who has breeding rights for the next 100 years. That's kind of what it is. It really is the law of the jungle. But the Chinese are, without a question of a doubt, manipulating their stock market, their currency. They are dumping. We're not sure, but we think they hold about $1 trillion of U.S. Treasury debt bonds. Apparently, they're dumping them to maintain their optics. That information is not yet confirmed. But what they do is they hold the piece of paper called a bond, U.S. bond. They sell it at a discount. When they sell it, they get dollars. They take those dollars and convert those dollars to their currency, RMB. That puts more dollars on the street. That reduces the value of the U.S. dollar and maintains the value of their currency. I'm well aware that these ideas are not easy to understand unless you're playing in the pit every day. And it takes a long time, even when you're playing, to understand this. But right now, because it takes a long time for these tariffs to work their way through into the heart of the real economy, people are looking at the FX market, the foreign currency markets, the currency values to determine who's winning and losing. And, in a fight, you ever been in a fight?
When I was really, I wouldn't even call it a fight. So no.
Okay. In a fight, uh, there's a winner, a putative winner sometimes. Buddy goes home, knuckle is busted, his eyes hanging out of a socket. Part of his hips are ruined for the next 20 years. I mean, fights, real fights, the winner gets damaged. There's no walking away undamaged.
Yeah.
So this is a moment where there's damage. Okay. So are we Americans now? This is the moment of truth for we the people. And it's going to be a long game. This is not a short game unless there's a nuclear exchange. Are we going to continue to take more than we give? In my own life, I mean, all you can do is deal with it in your own life. You can't make a decision for 300 million people. You can make a decision for me. I'm going to give more than I take. That's why I'm doing these podcasts. That's why Free People Radio exists. That's why I'm involved politically. I have no ambition for any of this. It's not me. I did it because I saw my country was in a tough situation. I've had a lot of experiences that have informed me so that I have something to say. And thanks for being in the audience. And I said, I'm going to do it no matter what happens because I'm an American and I want to preserve my freedom. And I want to see a political organization that acknowledges a creator that grants unalienable rights. I want to see that idea, that document, that form of governance continue because it's eloquent and I believe in it. And we're at war. President Trump sealed the southern border. Why? Because there's people down in Mexico that are, bad hombres, so to speak, and they're getting ready to kill them. So that's coming soon also. In this recent budget that's working its way through the sausage grinder, it's called the Big Beautiful Bill. The executive branch has proposed that the United Nations and NATO would lose all their funding. We'll see how the senators and congressmen deal with that because most of them are on the globalist payroll. Since I saw you last, President Trump announced a huge new tariff schedule on international shipping docking at U.S. ports. And that is because the Chinese dominate the shipbuilding and logistics industries. And our government has determined that it is a threat to the United States. So they're going to start charging companies that have Chinese vessels $1.5 million every time one of those vessels or one of those companies shows up in the U.S. So that's another tax coming soon. It's a phase-in over time. It's not fully effective until 2028, but it is coming. And much like the sectors of automobiles and semiconductors, steel and aluminum and pharma, now this shipbuilding, these sectors are going to have protection because there's going to be broad bipartisan support to build these industries up domestically. So whatever you hear about the G.I. Joe with the Kung Fu grip that you want to go buy at Target, I don't know what the tariff's going to be on that. But when it comes to these sectors, they are going to be protected because shipbuilding doesn't go on here in the United States anymore unless it's military. We don't even have one single international carrier that's domiciled here in the United States. It's all international. None of it's U.S. How did that happen? And, somebody's going to say, this happens. No, it doesn't. It happened on purpose and for a reason. As Franklin Roosevelt so aptly stated, if it happened in politics, it happened for a reason. California, the state thereof, has sued to overturn President Trump's tariff initiatives. The state of California. Oh, what a surprise. Does anybody know where California, do you know where California is?
Yeah.
Do you know they have ports there, right? The biggest ports in the country?
Yeah, they're right on the ocean.
They're right on. And where does all that stuff come from? Comes from Vietnam and Malaysia and Cambodia and Thailand and Indonesia and China.
Yeah.
So if President Trump starts to domesticate manufacturing, it's not going to California. It's the highest priced state in the country. It's going down into the South where things are not so expensive. California doesn't like that.
No.
They're going to, somebody's messing with their dog bowl, aren't they?
Is that the side that had the union that just had that whole strike?
That was the East Coast Union.
Okay.
The West Coast Union had their strike many years ago.
They're getting paid really healthy, right?
I don't want to be, because, you're catching me without the facts and figures in front of me.
Okay.
But I'm going to say a crane operator at a port in California, union guy, probably makes $250,000 a year.
Pretty serious job.
Pretty serious, isn't
Yeah.
it? Nice job. Come out of high school, your dad worked for the union, you're grandfathered in on a nepotism deal, and you graduate with a degree in smoking dope, and the next year, you're making $200,000 a year working with your dad on the docks.
Isn't America great?
Isn't America great? That's correct. I'm trying to bring everybody into the awareness of how serious a moment we're in. Could you please play number 3?
I think that right now we are at a decision-making point and very close to a recession. And I'm worried about something worse than a recession if this isn't handled well. A recession is 2 negative quarters of GDP, and whether it goes slightly there, we always have those things. We have something that's much more profound. We have a breaking down of the monetary order. We are going to change the monetary order because we cannot spend the amounts of money, so we have that problem. And when we talk about the dollar and we talk about tariffs, we have that. We are having profound changes in our domestic order, how ruling is existing, and we're having profound changes in the world order. Such times are very much like the 1930s. I've studied history, and this repeats over and over again. So if you take tariffs, if you take debt, if you take the rising power challenging the existing power, if you take those factors and look at the factors, those changes in the orders, the systems, are very, very disruptive. How that's handled could produce something that is much worse than a recession.
That is the 124th wealthiest person in the world, Ray Dalio, a net worth of about $15 billion. Ray Dalio is somewhat of a scholar. He's a best-selling author, and he's making the point that something awful is underway. Now, he has a perspective on this. He's certainly a globalist, and he is cautioning we the people there on NBC, the People's Network. He's cautioning that he's worried about something much worse. And what he's worried about is this reordering of the world financial system where America's addiction to taking more than it gives unwinds, and we're snapped back into the reality of the forest. Now, I have a very simple diagnosis of this that will be rejected by most of my boomer cohorts here in Minnesota, but it is thoroughly historical. I'm not saying it's the truth. It's a street corner from which truth could be observed. Franklin Roosevelt forced Winston Churchill to sign the Atlantic Charter to gain the United States' support for England in its battle with the Nazis. The Atlantic Charter posited the right of all people to self-determine, which meant that the British were going to have to give up their colonial empire if the United States was going to help them. And I think Franklin Roosevelt probably had some pretty good motivations for doing this. A lot of people don't like Franklin Roosevelt. If you actually listen to his speeches, he said some pretty MAGA things. If you go listen to him, pretty MAGA. And he constantly acknowledges the Creator and God. The man is complex. At the least, that's a description of him. So what happened? We won the war with the Allies, and we breached with the Soviet. And what did we do? The English were spent. We inherited the British Empire. We, the people, took over those security obligations. In the Pacific, we destroyed the Japanese Empire, and then we made them create a constitution where they said they couldn't militarize or even defend themselves. So, of course, what did they say? If we're going to give up our right to self-defense, you're going to have to defend us, America. And we said, sure thing, buddy. So we inherited the Japanese Empire, which is virulently anti-Chinese. The Japanese and the Chinese have been fighting for millennia. The Japanese and the Chinese hate each other, and now we're shilling for the Japanese in the Pacific. The English hated the Russians, fought 1805, fought the Russians, 1853, fought the Russians. Now we got this Ukraine war, which the British are, leading the charge. This goes back all the way to the way back with the British, and the British were a colonial occupier of China. And we, the people, assumed control of these two imperial empires. That's not what America's about. America was a colony ourselves. Who were the people in our politics that led us to become participants in the slavery, drugs, and piracy business model, which we fought 2 wars to get out of? That's how screwed up we are as people. We don't know our history. We don't know history, and we're getting played by the Japanese in the Pacific and by the English in Europe, and we're a bouncer. And, usually when you go to the bar to bounce, they pay you. No, we paid them to bounce for them. We did it out of the goodness of our own hearts. And guess what? We're out of money. We can't do it. I'm talking about back in 46. See, once we took this role of operating this neo-colonial empire, once we figured out, when I say we, I'm talking about a select group of assholes that run the country financially. When they figured out how to operate this thing, and they may have set it up that way from the start. I'm not there, I don't know. They started extracting wealth from everybody, and people don't want to be robbed. It's just that simple. So if we want to get out of this mess, in that budget negotiation, remember what I said President Trump is proposing to Congress as they put the sausage machine on to come out with the big, beautiful bill? No more funding for the United Nations. No more funding for NATO. President Trump just announced yesterday, if he can't see a deal come between Ukraine and Russia, we're out. And when he says we're out, what he's telling the Europeans, we're out. We're withdrawing from Europe. We have so much military infrastructure in Europe. Hey, you know what? My name is Paul, and it's between you all. You people are assholes, and the people in the United States that don't see this, that are aligned with assholes, hey, what does that make you? Figure it out. Read a book. It's not that hard to figure out if you read a book. Same thing in Asia. We're protecting the Japanese. We're protecting the South Koreans. We're protecting the Australians. Why? What? Yes. Is it possible that we're going to go through a 20-year period here in the United States where we can't go on down to Walmart and buy the margarita ice maker and bring it home, use it once, and then put it in a cabinet and then throw it away? What we call conspicuous consumption. Is it possible our materialism might be played out? And would that be a bad thing if we couldn't afford to do that? And we had to do what you do for entertainment. You don't go down to the Walmart and spend money on things. You go out to the woods,
Yeah.
right?
Yep. Go walk in the woods.
Isn't that cool? If all of us suddenly had to go out to the woods or take a walk or spend time with our children or read a book or meditate or perhaps go to church and really have an Easter. Because if you really had that Easter, you really had it, the only happy Easters would be for the people in the church. There'd be no public displays of it. That is advertising. Quit it, Republicans. Don't advertise. Because for someone like me, and I get all these happy Easters from political people, I'm thinking to myself, did you go to church? Do you believe in God? Let's start there. Do you really believe in God, for a starter? See, because where I come from a traditional culture, there's a spectrum of believing in God. And over here on the far perverse side is, I believe in God insofar as I can use God to justify my political ambitions. That's violating one of the 10 commandments. Thou shalt not use the Lord's name in vain. And Ray Dalio is telling us that, things are not good. Well, let's just talk about some recent history. I promised you. How do we get here? Let's listen to number 4.
Perhaps it's to bring back American manufacturing, but I really think that's a pipe dream and not something that is likely to be accomplished. And we could even raise questions about whether or not, in a broad-based way, that's a desirable goal.
That's Janet Yellen. I promised you, the audience, again, thank you for being here tonight. I promised some review of Janet Yellen's work. She used the word pipe dream to talk about how it would be not possible to restore U.S. manufacturing. The choice of the word pipe dream is possibly not accidental. It's like everything else with Janet Yellen. She just looks too soft and kind to be an evil manipulator. Pipe dream coming from the opium period in China, where Chinese people were intentionally addicted to opium by the British business model, and they went to the opium dens and had pipe dreams. So, in a very interesting kind of a way here, she's saying it's a pipe dream of we the people to believe that we could restore our economic independence and vitality and disconnect from the globalist system that she is so committed to. Let's listen to number 5.
So we had a very well-functioning economy, and President Trump has taken a wrecking ball to it.
You're now back to being a professor. I have to ask you, how would you grade how the Trump administration has handled the economy thus far?
I'm afraid I could not give it a passing grade. I'm sorry. I think policy has been, this is the worst self-inflicted wound that I have ever seen an administration impose on a well-functioning economy.
Stop, please. So this is what this woman wants you to believe. An economy that has a structural $1.5 trillion deficit and a $37 trillion debt is well functioning. That'd be like a patient went into the hospital and they just lost one of their legs because of diabetes and they were just diagnosed with cancer, but they're well functioning. This is how evil this is. Let's continue.
If you take the whole complex of Trump policies, tariffs that, as I just said, could cost the average household up to around $4,000 a year, the DOGE cuts in...
Stop. So there's this, bang around in policy circles, which is now talking points for all the globalists, that this tariff regime is going to cost you and me $4,000 a year. I'm going to guarantee it's not going to cost me $4,000. You want to know why? I don't waste my time or money buying shit. I don't do it. I don't do it, and I don't let anybody around me do it. And if, when I go to Costco, and Mrs. Professor Penn says, "Oh, look at these plates. They're so beautiful." I always say to her, "We got enough plates to last 6 lifetimes. Do you think you can ixnay on the plates now?" So I understand she wants to buy it, and she's welcome to. I mean, we're not going to fight over it, but generally speaking, we don't spend money on things.
Yeah.
We spend money on food and gas, and I spend my time reading and praying and practicing to be here with you, and I love that lifestyle. I haven't bought new clothes for a very long time. I don't really need new clothes. It's really a scam. It's saying that we, the people, are sold out to materialism. I know you're not.
Yeah, but my generation, oh man, yeah. It's people are arguing about like the prices on TikTok Shop, Temu, some of the like most obvious like cheap, poorly made items. It's all about what can I buy? That's how they equate freedom. That's okay.
That's an interesting concept.
That's what I'll say. That's what I think I see. That is an opinion, but like when I look amongst my like age group, it's freedom to them is how much money they have in their pocket. That's what they have decided freedom means.
That'd make them Marxists because everything is about money.
Yeah. Some will say it out loud. Like when I worked at the jewelry store, you get some characters that come in there and blow their money on jewelry, but how many stories I heard where it's like, dude, you're a terrible person, but in their mind they're like, oh, I had to get the bag up. That's the quote they would always use, get the bag up. I got the bag.
What you mean?
It's just money bag. Yeah. You got money. So whatever you do, it doesn't matter as long as you're just getting money because you're just getting by.
This would be called taking more than giving. Let's continue with Dr. Yellen, please.
Services, whether it's for our veterans, Social Security, the Internal Revenue Service, the agencies the public interacts with, a spending plan that is likely to involve huge cuts in Medicaid and food stamps that lower income families particularly rely on, all in order to support tax cuts that mainly benefit the wealthy.
Stop. Okay. So now we're getting down to it. We've gotten so far from the forest that we've given up our self-governance. So Janet Yellen has now listed off, Doge cuts and, the IRS cuts to the IRS. Oh, heaven forbid, we're going to have less IRS agents on the street. And then cuts to Medicaid and food stamps, and then all to have tax cuts for the wealthy. Well, you know what? Government has succeeded in making we the people dependent upon it.
Mm-hmm.
That is not the concept of the Republican. The Republican, not the party. The Republican has a life philosophy is I'm the sovereign of my own life. How can I be the sovereign of my own life when I'm dependent on a government? That's why the Republican seeks the smallest possible government. And why did we fail to maintain that? We have wars that require giant mobilization society-wide and the creation of infrastructure and systems to protect the people. And that's what we've got. We've lost our freedom because of the convenience of going on Temu and buying things and the security that our government allegedly provides for us. But really, it's not that convenient, and we're certainly not secure. I mean, it's really not that convenient. When you feel economically on the edge constantly, it's not that convenient, is it?
No.
Because I still feel on the edge economically, and I'm way downstream from you. And the security part, hey, come on, let's not kid ourselves. The police show up to clean up the mess, not to protect your life. Let's listen to a little bit more of Janet Yellen.
Administration that said it's worker focused. And I really can't think of an overall economic agenda that could be more devastating on every front, from tariffs to cuts in government services to leaving very large deficits, taking policies that will expand the deficit when we need to see exactly the opposite.
Stop, please. See, that's, of course, the outcome that they want. That's what the Republican Party of Minnesota wants. They don't want these tariffs. If we get these tariffs in place at a baseline of 25%, I say this to my friend Rob, who is hating President Trump, 25% is not a showstopper for trade. And you'd raise $1 trillion a year in tariff income, and you'd have a balanced budget. But if we get bogged down here with this baked-in structural deficit of $1.5 trillion, and then we convince everybody that there's going to be cuts to government services, which to me means a bend over and the government will service your account. But hey, that's a George Carlin joke, if you know it. If we get bogged down in here and we lose this energy to restructure our political economy, then we will continue to have these deficits and we will lose the currency. And then the bankers are going to come in and foreclose on the collateral, which is the freedom of the American people. Let's go listen to number 6, where she fesses up about how screwed up she is. Number 6. This is the one I said I'd play again, where a former chairman of the Fed and Secretary of the Treasury didn't understand inflation. Let's go ahead here.
Certainly, as the president says, inflation is the number one domestic economic problem facing the United States right now. But it wasn't just the president who got it wrong a year or so ago. I want to play for you what you said about inflation last year. Listen to this.
Is there a risk of inflation? I think there's a small risk, and I think it's manageable. I don't anticipate that inflation is going to be a problem, but it is something that we're watching very carefully.
Was it a mistake, Madam Secretary, to downplay this inflation risk? Did that contribute to the problems we're all seeing right now?
Well, look, I think I was wrong then about the path that inflation would take. As I mentioned, there have been unanticipated and large shocks to the economy that have boosted energy and food prices, and supply bottlenecks that have affected our economy badly that at the time didn't.
Everything this woman is saying is a straight up lie. She's a PhD economist. She's talking about prices that went up during the COVID period because of supply chain bottlenecks. That has nothing to do with inflation. That's prices. They're two different ideas. She was sitting at the big boys table there with Joe Biden and Vice President Harris and all of the Democrat leaders of Congress and their Republican collaborators. The Democrats were in complete control. When she was saying that there won't be inflation, she knew they were going to pass the Inflation Reduction Act and the American Recovery Act, which vastly expanded the money supply, I think by about $6 or $7 trillion during the period of time that she was the Secretary of the Treasury. She knew that this was coming. She's lying. She's not a stupid woman. She's a PhD economist teaching at Yale. She's a brilliant woman who is a committed Marxist. And what she is about with her friends like Obama and Biden and all the rest of them is the Cloward-Piven model of destroying the freedom of we the people, to overwhelm the system with problems so it collapses. She set it up. She set up the problems that we're facing today. This woman, this pretty face that you're looking at, she chose to refinance $8 trillion of debt. Not at 30 years at 1%, which she could have at the beginning of the Biden administration. No, She set it up so it's coming due right now. She knew the inflation was coming. She knew the Federal Reserve would raise interest rates because she was the chairman of the Federal Reserve before she was the Secretary of the Treasury. You're looking at this woman's face needs to be on the most wanted list. She is fronting the whole deal. Of course, they're running a grandma out there. Who's going to be mad at a grandma? You know, I go up on stage in front of a bunch of boomers. They can hate me, okay? But how could you hate her? She's so kind. She's so gentle. And she's telling you right to your face that she is a despicable liar. And now here we are today. The markets are coming undone. Of course, the people that are running this plan, they don't care that Trump is the president. They're just going to blame it on him. He's doing everything he can to stop their plan from working. This was always the plan for 2025. That's why Tom Emmer passed the debt ceiling bill. So there'd be no this conversation about the debt ceiling until January 2nd, 2025, for example. They knew exactly what all of them knew. And they sit up here and act like I'm dumb. No, I'm not dumb. You're not dumb. And we need to get rid of this professional political class of people that trade in lies for their own benefit. They're takers, not givers. Now, while we're having this knockdown, drag out in the Republican Party in every city, county, and state of in the country, let's take a look at how the Democrats are doing. Let's play number 7. This is a short of Ken Martin, formerly the leader of the Minnesota Democrat Party. He is now the leader of the National Democrat National Committee. Let's take a listen to a little bit of Ken's brand of BS.
Let me just start by saying we have one team. One team.
That's right.
The Democratic Party. We have one fight. We have one fight. The fight's not in here. The fight's out there, right? The fight's not in here. The fight is for our values. The fight is for working people. The fight right now is against Donald Trump and the billionaires who bought this country. That's the fight not in here. I want to thank all of you. Thank you to the DNC members who have put their faith in my vision for our party. I am honored and humbled for every one of you who supported me. To our friends, our volunteers, our staff, and everybody on Team Ken who's with us here or back in Minnesota, we couldn't have done this without all of you.
That's good. So the Democrats, whether they're on the far left or in the center, they're going to unite around hating Donald Trump because he's restoring republicanism to the country. So the divisions in the Democrat Party, which are profound, will get papered over in an effort to maintain globalism. Ken Martin saying that, you know, the country's been sold out to the oligarchs by the Republicans is laughable. Wall Street has been voting Democrat for a generation. It's a Democrat that believes in one world government, one world economy, free trade, and one world currency. And they're going to circle around the wagons now. They're going to circle the wagons to be sure that whatever we're doing here, trying to maintain our freedom, gets defeated in the midterms and in the next election. Even if that means they're going to retread Bernie Sanders, who's a two-time loser, maybe this trip out, the communist is going to make it to the head of the class. Let's listen to number 8. There's AOC, the presumptive vice presidential candidate. And here he comes again, the old socialist himself, the Marxist, the Bolshevik. And look at that adoring crowd. Republicans who are in the Uni Party and the apparatus, take a look at what you're doing here. What you're setting up by rejecting the citizens. Because you're with this guy. That's who you're really supporting. When I say that within the context of the really intensifying divide in the Republican Party between the supporters of American nationalism and the supporters of globalism. The Minnesota Star Tribune, our local communist newspaper, which they reminded me about that again today, article after article, glowing eulogies for the Pope who died yesterday, who was an unrepentant globalist. It's just amazing that we have Americans, we have Republicans, so-called, that support an ideology which gives up the sovereignty and the national character of what it is to be America. I'm stunned by this, and the Jim Nashes and the Julia Colemans and all these people that are in the apparatus. You know, you're really you're really forcing a split in the Republican Party at the moment that we need to unify. The Democrats are going to unify behind Bernie Sanders. They busted his ass 2 times. It didn't work now. To keep republicanism from succeeding, they're going to put Bernie Sanders at the top of the ticket. And we can't even get together within the Republican Party of Minnesota to actually understand that we have a country and the citizens want to maintain their freedom. You guys keep lying and BSing and labeling, and the result's going to be what you want. Globalism will continue, and the revenge of these people is going to be unpleasant. I said to Mary Franzen, she put up a post where a Democrat politician here in Minnesota, I think a guy's name was Engen, no, it was Kaplan, blocked her. And I said to her, I said, Mary, in the eyes of these people, you and Royce White are the same person. Don't you get it? And she said, Royce White is nuts. No, they think you're nuts. This game we're playing inside the Republican Party, when we lose the next time, they're coming for everybody. They're not just coming for the Royce Whites of the party. They're coming for the Jim Nashes and the Julia Colemans. They're going to come for the most centrist, collaborationist Republicans, because these people are interested in power. They're not interested in cooperating. You keep talking about cooperation. You're just fooling yourselves. The Star Tribune went after Action for Liberty this week in a long article. Action for Liberty being a citizens-orientated 501c3. It's a political action organization, and the Minnesota GOP has issued a proclamation condemning them, as if that matters. The part that I wanted to comment on was there's been all this allegation that Action for Liberty is a grift. And the Minnesota Star Tribune reported some revenue numbers. In 2023, Action for Liberty reported $269,000 in revenue. It's ridiculous. That's not grifting. That's losing money on their operations. So the assertion that Jake Duesenberg and his organization are doing what they're doing to get rich, to grift off the people, is false. It's obviously false. So stop saying it, because it's not going to work. I'm not going to let it work, because you're going to say I'm grifting. We're all losing money to do one thing, to oppose the people that would sell out the United States of America and subordinate us to global governance. We're fighting to maintain a country. And you people want to label me or label Royce as nuts or label Jake Duesenberg as a grifter. Hey, this is going to backfire on you, because the facts are not supportive of the lies you're telling. And then they run these people out here and interview them like they're important, like Preya Sam Sunder, a sellout, a paid media consultant, and she's on Star Tribune. If you're the go-to person for an interview, like Michael Broadcorp, Preya Sam Sunder, Dustin Gragey, if you're the people that are purveying the status quo, we just all need to quit listening to you folks. You're really irrelevant. You're not part of maintaining freedom for Minnesota citizens. let me show you something that speaks to the heart of this. Could you please play number 9?
Connor, do you know what wrestling is?
I could rest my balls on your forehead.
Yeah, I know. So
The incomparable Conor McGregor. I'm assuming you're familiar with Conor McGregor?
Oh yeah, I used to watch him a lot.
Awesome, right?
Yeah, I never liked his cockiness, but he was a great fighter. He was explosive.
So my point in playing this is Conor McGregor is making a turn into politics. The same fight that's going on here in Minnesota is going on in Ireland and Northern Ireland. We don't have the time today to go into the history of Ireland and Northern Ireland in great depth, but let's just say it involves the British colonial enterprise, the interplay of the Protestant religion with the Catholic religion. Conor McGregor grew up in Ireland. He's a Catholic. Those religious sectarian differences have been watered down over the last 30 years. But there is still an Irish identity and a champion that wraps himself in the Irish flag becomes a leader of his people. Now, when you're in the ring like that, that's real, very real. There's no kidding around in there. You can lose your life very easily fighting like that. That's an all-in proposition. And the courage that it takes to do that is exceptional. Let's take a listen to number 9A.
You're maybe the most famous living Irishman, and you're saying things that the overwhelming majority of your politicians will not say.
Conor McGregor played host in Dublin this week to Tucker Carlson, the right-wing American commentator. The former Fox News presenter's interview is due to air online this evening on a number of US channels, including YouTube. Among the topics covered, McGregor's bid to try and run for the Oireas.
Why can't you run for president?
There's stipulations. You have to get 4 county councils, which are controlled by the government parties, or you have to get 20 nominations of the Oireachtas, which are all mostly party affiliates.
So you can't just run for president?
You can't just run for president.
So how is it a democracy?
We are not a democratic country, and they'll have to answer to their constituents at some stage. There will be accountability.
Are you going to do it anyway?
In the last 6 months, Conor McGregor has been in the public eye more than ever. Last November, a jury in a civil court found that he had raped Nikita Hand and awarded her damages of €250,000. McGregor is appealing. Since the verdict, he has been courting the American media.
Happy Paddy's Day, America!
A visit to the White House on St. Patrick's Day.
We couldn't think of a better guest to have with us on St. Patrick's Day.
Family photographs with President Trump, a move that was criticised by all political sides here at home, with the message from political leaders loud and clear. McGregor does not speak for Ireland.
What do you think they're going to do to you if you keep talking this way?
Attempt to tarnish as they are and move forward under God. And my nation can see.
You're really not afraid at all?
Not an iota.
The 2-hour interview with Tucker Carlson goes online shortly.
So I take this interlude about Conor McGregor for 2 reasons. Number 1, it's the same fight that's going on here in Minnesota or wherever you live. Remember what McGregor said? It's really not a democracy. It's really not. The parties have it rigged. And he said the Irish people know his heart. And the courage that he is evidencing to move forward, all the political parties. The Uni Party of Ireland says he does not speak for the Irish people, but I bet he does, because I bet the Irish people think he's pretty badass with all those great victories in the ring. See, those politicians are not really interested in getting in the ring. Like Mary Franson, she would call Conor McGregor crazy, and he acts crazy.
Yeah.
He acts crazy. He knows, but actually he's committed to maintaining the identity and the sovereignty of the Irish Republic, which is suffering the same kind of unrestricted, government-supported mass migration that we have here in the United States. The same kind of deficit spending, the same kind of robbing of the public purse. He talks about it on the Tucker interview. So I wanted to highlight the similarity to what's going on here. It's going on all over the world, the same fight, his bravery. And then I want to bring up something because it's just, many of you have seen this. The allegations have been made that he's a sellout and Tucker Carlson is a sellout because that interview took place in the Masonic Lodge in Dublin. The Masonic Lodge, which is the secret society really of the Anglican Church. It's the secret society, the Masons. We've talked about it a lot. We'll talk about it again. We're running out of time tonight. I'm just going to tell those pundits and those people that believe that Conor McGregor and Tucker Carlson sold out and are controlled by the Masons. You have to have some feelings to feel these things. Neither Carlson or McGregor need to sell out. They're both famously wealthy. They're both famously brave. And Tucker Carlson put that interview in the Masonic Lodge to thumb his nose at the British Imperial Empire. It is a slap in their face. Now, that lodge, somebody put out a press release that said, we didn't know it was going to be Tucker Carlson. You know who that was? That was the lower level dude who booked the hall, trying to put out a press release to protect himself from the people upstairs who are going to say, how could you ever let Carlson and McGregor in our holy hall? Because that dude's ass is grass. No, they're not sellouts. They're fighting the fight against the secret society called the Masons. Same thing everywhere, same secret societies everywhere, same bravery required to fight those secret societies. That's what we need to learn from this Conor McGregor interlude. And if we're going to heal our way out of this thing, we're going to have to learn as humanity to have our individual identities, but not in conflict with each other. Our conflict is with the PhDs and the anthropologists, the sociologists, the educated who weaponize identity to create division because a house divided cannot stand. Let's listen to, I think it's number 10, I have it as.
Now over here is the Inglorious Bastards section, and over here are the people who made the movie. Hey! In Inglorious Bastards, Christoph Waltz played a Nazi obsessed with finding Jews. Well, Christoph? The Motherlode!
Of course, when Kanye West says this, he's roundly pilloried. This is an Oscars ceremony, goes back a long way. Inglourious Bastards is no longer a current movie. It's an interesting movie, and I learned a lot from this clip. This is about the weaponization of identity to accomplish a preferred behavioral outcome. The Jewish identity has been used by Jews and non-Jews alike for a very long time. And the anti-Semitism that is evidenced everywhere now and rising up more and more every day is terrifying. So one must ask themselves, why is this? That's a very important question one needs to ask. Jew and non-Jew alike. Why is there this level of anti-Semitism? But for Jewish people to use the Jewish identity to accomplish a preferred behavioral outcome is going to meet an equal and opposite response. I really enjoyed the movie Inglourious Bastards when it came out. I think it's 10 years ago, maybe 11 years ago. My political frame of reference was not as developed as it is today. That movie is the story of Jew hunting in France, and it ends in a fanciful, comical murder of all the Nazi hierarchy by a group of Jews, the inglorious bastards, who were recruited by the U.S. military to wreak havoc behind enemy lines during World War II. Let's take a look at what I call the floorboard scene.
Consequently, a German soldier conducts a search of a house suspected of hiding Jews. Where does the hawk look? He looks in the barn, he looks in the attic, he looks in the cellar, he looks everywhere he would hide. But there's so many places it would never occur to a hawk to hide. However, the reason the Führers brought me off my Alps in Austria and placed me in French cow country today is because it does occur to me. Because I'm aware what tremendous feats human beings are capable of once they abandon dignity. May I smoke my pipe as well?
Please, go and make yourself at home.
Now, my job dictates that I must have my men enter your home and conduct a thorough search before I can officially cross your family's name off my list. And if there are any irregularities to be found, rest assured there will be. That is unless you have something to tell me that makes the conducting of a search unnecessary. I might add also that any information that makes the performance of my duty easier will not be met with punishment. Actually, quite the contrary. It will be met with reward. And that reward will be your family will cease to be harassed in any way by the German military during the rest of our occupation of your country. You're sheltering enemies of the state, are you not?
Yes.
You're sheltering them underneath your floorboards, aren't you?
Yes.
Point out to me the areas where they're hiding. Since I haven't heard any disturbance, I assume while they're listening, they don't speak English.
Yes.
I'm going to switch back to French now, and I want you to follow my masquerade as clear.
Yes.
Monsieur Lapidite, je vous remercie pour le nez, pour votre hospitalité. Il me semble que nous en avons terminé. Ah, mesdames, je vous remercie pour le temps que vous m'avez consacré. Ne ruinerons pas votre famille plus longtemps. Donc, monsieur, mesdemoiselles, je prends congé de vous et je vous dis adieu.
This was a movie that was made to advance certain narratives It was very entertaining, very well acted, very well written. It was a Harvey Weinstein production, the Harvey Weinstein that is behind bars for his sexual crimes. Quentin Tarantino film. I look back at now all the Quentin Tarantino films, Django. After a certain point, Quentin Tarantino started to make films that were supportive of a globalist narrative about identity. And I'm not here to judge Quentin Tarantino, but I'll judge for myself. My view of these films has changed. There was a Holocaust. So for those of you who are going to say the Holocaust is a lie, you can go bite a hog in the ass. My family was killed there. So I don't have to depend on a textbook to brainwash me. I have the statements of the people that survived with their tattoos on their wrists, okay? And I saw what happened to them because they were ruined psychologically from what they went through. And there was a thing that was spoken when I was a child called never again. We're never going to let this happen again. We're never going to let this happen again. Well, there was obviously a pre-existing tension between the Jews and the Europeans before World War II. This didn't jump up out of a vacuum. So to look at the roots of these identity problems requires real historical research, real honesty to take a look at it. But I want to talk about where we're at today. Could you please play The Rabbi?
I want you to know that I will die the way I was born, a believing Jew. That there is no power in the universe, including you, God, creator of heaven and earth, he who fills the infinite expanse of space. I, as a Jew, am stronger than you. My name is Israel, he who wrestles with God and is victorious. I will die with my faith intact. There is nothing you can do.
Things can get a little bit twisted. This is not the kind of statement anybody that I grew up with would have ever made. This is a reaction to generation after generation of never again and the weaponization of Jewish identity to bring about preferred behavioral outcomes relative to the globalist project. If we're going to get our ass out of this spot we find ourselves, we're going to have to, as human beings, learn how to hold on to our identities without allowing them to be weaponized by people who don't give a damn about Jews or non-Jews or Muslims. We're going to have to come together to preserve what it is to be human, because the end game is right now. Let's listen to number 13.
We believe as an industry that in the next 1 year, the vast majority of programmers will be replaced by AI programmers. We also believe that within 1 year, you will have graduate level mathematicians that are at the tippy top of graduate math programs. So that's 1 year, okay? What happens in 2 years? Well, I've just told you about reasoning, and I've told you about programming, and I've told you about math. Programming plus math are the basis of sort of our whole digital world. So the evidence and the claims from the research groups in OpenAI and Anthropic and so forth is that they're now somewhere around 10 or 20% of the code that they're developing in their research programs is being generated by the computer. That's called recursive self-improvement, is the technical term. So what happens when this thing starts to scale? Well, a lot. One way to say this is that within 3 to 5 years, we'll have what is called general intelligence, AGI, which can be defined as a system that is as smart as the smartest mathematician, physicist, artist, writer, thinker, politician. I call this, by the way, the San Francisco consensus, because everyone who believes this is in San Francisco. It may be the water. What happens when every single one of us has the equivalent of the smartest human on every problem in our pocket? But the reason I want to make the point here is that in the next year or two, this foundation is being locked in, and we're not going to stop it. It gets much more interesting after that. Because remember, the computers are now doing self-improvement. They're learning how to plan, and they don't have to listen to us anymore. We call that superintelligence, or ASI, artificial superintelligence. And this is the theory that there will be computers that are smarter than the sum of humans. The San Francisco consensus is this occurs within 6 years, just based on scaling. This path is not understood in our society. There's no language for what happens with the arrival of this. That's why it's underhyped. People do not understand what happens when you have intelligence at this level, which is largely free.
Free trade isn't free. There's a cost to it, and this level of intelligence is not largely free. This whole game of getting us to hate ourselves and hate each other is so that this technocratic, scientific AI prison can be imposed upon we the people without us even recognizing it's here. It's here right now. There are people of the boomer cohort, which I'm quite critical of because it's my cohort. There's nothing I can do to convince these people. They're gone. For everybody else in my cohort, we need to unify through political action. We need to break down the barriers between these communities. These people that are implementing this technology, they don't care about your identity. They don't need you. They don't need me. They're going to kill blacks, Jews, whites, Asians, Africans, Eskimos alike. They do not care. And our political class, which sits in mindless division, doesn't unify the people, grifting off the people to maintain their little dog bowls of power, are participating in a tyranny which is coming right now. We've got to get organized. We got to stop hating, and we got to stop. We have to stop hating. We got to start participating. So we went through a lot of different things tonight. It was a big agenda. I hope you can tie it together. I'm going to come back to it and try to weave it back together even tighter in the episodes to come. My point is, while we're hating ourselves and each other, it's the British business model. They're going to take complete control of we the people and take what last vestiges of freedom we have away from us. Donald Trump is just trying to stop it. He's one man in a system that is global and arrayed against him. And we in the Republican Party do not yet have his back. If we're going to get out of this mess, we're going to have to unify in coordinated political action where we actually get off the couch and get in the game. And that's not 2 years from now. That is today. Thanks very much for joining. I look forward to be back with you Thursday night, God willing. Tanner, thanks for coming in this morning.
Of course.
We'll see you all again soon.
Have a good night, everybody.